Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today. Now, let's pass the mic to your MC, Letty Lundquist, to kick off this journey of enduring inspiration.
Hello and welcome back to the Marathon Champions podcast, the podcast with Benji Durden, Ron Tabb, and Bill Rogers. Today we're going to play the final part of our conversations with the Dillons. This is part 4, so please sit back and enjoy.
Now, Patty, you were in the Liberty Athletic Club. Still to this day, I saw a photo of you. They celebrated, I think, their 50th or 75th.
Yes, it was really nice. There was about 100 women, or no, 75 women. A lot of women showed
Lynn
up.
Jennings
It was great.
ran for them. Joan Benoit ran for them.
Yeah, we have quite a roster. Lynn Jennings, Darling Beckford, Joan Benoit, me, Charlotte Lettuce. Charlotte won the First Lakes Mini in New York City in 1975.
So there was a great strength in your teammates and everything.
Yeah, but we really didn't run together as a team. Only
Maybe because it's so new and you didn't have funds and money. So that's the way it was. But still, you were one of the first women's teams in the country.
Yeah, it was. And it's still there, and it's still going great, strong. And
Hey,
right
so
now
Pat,
they have
so Patty, did you train with Joni much? Did you guys train together? Were you guys
no, she was in college and she lived in Maine, and she transferred one year to North Carolina. So I would just see her.
Well, you're a little bit older than she is, aren't you? Isn't she?
Oh yeah. Oh right. I was older, and these girls were young, and so I got flack from my peers by saying, why are you running, taking trophies away from little kids? And I was like, I thought about that. That really hurt me. But at the time, I only lost a couple of weeks for that remark, and I just went, I don't see kids. I don't see kids at these races.
I don't.
And so I just thought that I didn't know there was a problem, or it was the beginning of women's running or anything. I just thought women didn't want to run. I just didn't think they liked it. And
the sport was so much different back then. I mean, women didn't
I thought
have
they were missing out. They thought I went here saying, why would you run? You're going to get big legs. And I'm thinking, big legs? I'm a size girl 10. I'm a kid 10.
Yeah.
So, it was just different. And I'm just very lucky to be around the guys. They loved running. I mean, they were just regular guys who ran and on the track, and they just loved it. Yeah. And they
you were the same time with Jan Merrill too. Did you run with Jan at all?
I ran against Jan. I had one race. It was 50 people on the track at the Coast Guard Academy, 50 cadets, and Jan, and me.
Indoors.
No, we didn't run in the same race.
Was she in the Boston area? Was she in the Boston area?
She's
in Connecticut. I was floored when I moved to Connecticut. When I went for a run in the park where everybody goes to run, and there was Jan Merrill. I was shocked. So yeah, I know her now, but I didn't know her really well.
Between Patty and Joni and Jan, they traded the US 10K record back and forth between them a few times.
That's what I was asking.
Back and forth.
Yeah. But
she was tough. She was a tough runner.
I think 402.
But I only raced. I don't think I ever raced against Jan, but we did exchange times. And Joni, we ran against, but she beat me in Boston, so it doesn't matter how many races I beat her in. She beat me in Boston, so enough said. And she's a gold medal winner, so it doesn't matter.
Patty, when I look at your career and everything, and you and Joan Benoit Samuelson and Jacqueline Garreau kind of intersect. Of course, for a lot of times, you and I know that when Jacqueline Garreau briefly lost the Boston Marathon to Rosie Ruiz.
I love that photo with you and Rosie.
what had happened, and then didn't you go up to Toronto because you were very even with Joan, and I think you set the American record in the marathon, or you won Toronto Marathon against Jacqueline Gareau.
It was in Montreal, and come to find out, it was a world record, and it was a 2:30. And Jackie and I had a really good camaraderie going back and forth. In Boston, in the garage, in the Peru, her trainer or her partner and her agent were all talking, and they just looked at me and they said, would you want to beat her, don't you? And I said, oh, yes, I do. And they said, well, why don't we put together a race? Would you come and race her? And I said, sure. And that was the Montreal Marathon.
What year was that?
80.
That was the Rosie Ruiz year.
Rosie Ruiz, yep.
Did Joan run as well?
No. There was me, Jackie, Lori Binder,
yeah,
and somebody else. They put out invitations everywhere, and there's 4 of us that accepted. And all summer, I ran into Jackie and Joni and Lorraine Moeller. And when I first ran against them and beat them, I won. And I thought I was just the luckiest person in the world, and that I didn't think I could ever do it again. And I would meet them again. And I did. I just remembered to run the same way that I could run.
So Patty, what happened?
Scared out of my mind.
Yeah. Huh? Were you injured in 84 before the trials?
Yes.
For the Olympic marathon trials?
I cracked my tailbone in 81 at the Honolulu Marathon. But prior to that, in the Travera Tucson in 81, at the 10-mile, it's a 10-miler, at the 7-mile mark, I had a problem with my plantar fascia, which, my arch. And I didn't know it was plantar fascia, but it hurt like the dickens. And I limped through and I finished, and that was the start of all injuries. And I had that operated on my back. I missed time. Nobody believed me that I had plantar fascia problem. And Nike sent somebody to come run with me to check me out. And I said, I can't run hills. I can't run up and down sidewalks. I can't run on the side of the road. I have to run in the middle of the road. So I ran at night. So I could run up and down, West Roxbury Parkway in West Roxbury, Newton. It wasn't far from my house. So I could run there because it was nighttime, and, it was no traffic at like 11 o'clock midnight. So I ran that until I ruptured it on the Tufts track.
On your plantar fascia, you ruptured?
Yep.
That's same thing with Benji. Benji had the same problem.
Oh, man, it's awful.
I had surgery.
Oh, yes.
I suffered for years. Oh, you poor thing. And then the recovery. I had Bob Leach, who did Joni's knee. I had him repair it. And he said he gave me a choice, one way or the other way. And I chose the other way, which meant that he wasn't going to sever it. He was going to reattach it.
So you had this is for your plantar fascia?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they didn't send you down to see Don Baxter in Houston. He's the one,
I don't know.
That.
Nike
he might not have been the guy at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because he
started
doing
that was later in the early 80s, I think, when you started seeing.
I had it operated. Let's see. 82.
Yeah, I had both mine done.
Yeah.
And I was running.
Yeah.
In fact, when we went to Japan for the what was that?
Right.
I had just had surgery a couple of weeks before. I still had stitches.
How could you ever do that? I couldn't do it anything. The
doctor was phenomenal.
One of my exercises was to sit in a chair and stand up. That hurt. I'd have to ice my foot afterwards.
Yeah.
It was just awful.
We're the three poster children for plantar fascia.
Well,
I still don't have any feeling in my right foot. In my heel, I still don't have any feeling in it.
I think feeling. In those days we didn't have and the physical therapists didn't have the knowledge, and the doctors, the orthopedic people, didn't have the huge numbers, the millions of runners who they worked on over the years.
No, we were the guinea pigs.
We
Yeah.
were the
Yeah,
guinea
we
pigs.
were.
And
I
so
never
the
they
had
guinea pigs.
good. They
actual
weren't
surgery,
good.
so I don't, I didn't have, I wasn't a guinea pig. But my craziness is I tore the plantar fascia at Boston in '83, and then as in my master's career, I tore the other side, and that was sort of okay. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And for like 14 years, I didn't really race that much.
Well, Patty,
Oh, it's hard.
can you tell us a little bit? You know, you're cranking out the marathon and everything. You're becoming known. You're serious. You're dead serious. You go to the Honolulu Marathon. You
Uh-huh.
take 4 in a row. Can you tell us a little bit about the Honolulu Marathon, which I believe was started by a cardiologist who wanted his patients after surgery to get back and believe in themselves, that you can keep your health, keep your fitness, and don't be afraid. How did you
Right.
get invited there? You took 4 in a row. Who did you race there? It's considered to be one of the toughest marathons. I
You'd
never
be a good
wanted to race there.
interviewer.
I was afraid of the heat and the humidity,
You
running
got to
over.
hire this guy.
Yeah, you're hired, Billy. You're a good interviewer. Okay, in short, I did the Nike Marathon. Julie Brown won it out in Eugene. She set a new American record, 2:36. I got a PR, 2:43. And, that was my marathon. This is before people did a lot of that I did a lot of marathons in a year. That was it for the year for me. About 2 weeks before 2 weeks before the marathon, maybe 3 weeks before the marathon, I got a call asking if I would like to go to Honolulu to do the marathon because Julie Brown passed on it. They had a sister exchange because Nike was the sponsor. And if you won the Eugene, the winners would get a chance to go race in Honolulu. And of course, I said yes. First plane ride, all that stuff. It was really great. I went. Oh, before I did, we had an ice storm in Boston, and I went out and I ran. I ran like 3 hours or 3.5 hours. I just ran very long, and it was icy, and I just wanted to get my head in a in a good spot because I've been doing everything easy, just taking it easy until training would start in January for Boston. I went to Honolulu. At the park, Kapolani Park, where they have the expo. And they have the trophy there, and they have all past winners' names, and they have blank spaces for the new winners. And I'm just standing there by myself, and I'm looking, and I see Kim Merritt's name. I'm looking, and I literally take my finger, and I go to a blank space, and I imagine my name. And as I'm doing this, a person comes over and whispers in my ear. It turned out to be Jim Moberly, who was in charge of the athletes. And he said, they bring back the winner. And I looked at him and I was like, and I thought, I just went, okay. Now you have to remember, I'm kind of shy. I'm very quiet. I get hot very easily. I get flustered. I'm not very confident in myself. I'm already a worrywart, and I'm listening to him talk. And so I'm thinking about it. I already put my name there. So I want to make doubly sure. I see that Kim Merritt ran like a 2:44. And I think, oh my gosh, okay, that means I have to do a PR. So I'm out there running, Billy, and I not only think, do I have to win it, I want to make doubly sure that they'll call me back. So I have to set a course record. I do.
Yeah.
And so that started the whole thing. And I was over the moon. I had received so many delays and the love. I can only imagine how you felt. That's the only thing, like you winning Boston. I mean, I felt like Wow.
World, top of the
It was a
world, right?
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Like
And I
Jimmy
wanted it
Cagney.
again. Huh?
Remember Jimmy Cagney, top of the world.
Yeah.
No, but it's a different top of the world. It's not like a rocky top of the world. It's like a love. I don't know,
So,
a being. It was
so
just
Patty,
beautiful. What?
you're describing Honolulu, and you won a lot of races, a lot of marathons. What is your most memorable, the one that stands out to you more than any particular or any one marathon? What would you say? I think you won Brazil, Rio when
I won Rio. That was
you
a
won.
standout. You know, it's Rio. I could walk away after I did Rio. I had a very hard time getting to Rio. I had a hard time. That's what the movie's based on, is the Rio Marathon. I had done the trials. I did a 2:36, finished like 16th. My phone wasn't ringing. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I have no income. I have
What year?
maybe
When was this? What year was that?
84.
You lost your sponsorship by 84?
83. Maybe
Oh.
82. Yeah, 83. They paid for my operations, but nothing after that. Because I paid my own way to go to the trials.
Wow. That's
So,
that's a real shocker.
oh yeah, no, I paid my own way in my hotel.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah, and I bought a little what did I buy? So I can listen to my music in my ears.
Walkman.
A
Sony
Walkman.
Yes, I bought my own Walkman.
Yeah.
You're dating us.
I know. Well, I think I still have it around here somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Wow, I can't believe Nike cut you.
oh yeah, they did. And a phone call I received, yeah, Freddie Doyle. Freddie Doyle told me. And they said, well, Patty, I got something to tell you. And I knew. And I said, yeah, Freddie. He said, well, yeah, they're not going to renew. And I said, yeah, I know, I figured. And he said, well, they'll give you shoes. And I said, no, that's okay. But what I ended up doing, I only could do it for a couple of months because my money was running out. I paid $400 for, remember the Hershey Shoe Company?
Yeah.
They would make your shoe.
Yep.
So they cost me, it was $400 a pair. And I was running a lot. So it was like every 6 weeks I needed a new pair. I should never have said no to Nike.
But hey, so curious. So what was your biggest payday appearance fee? Because Bill and Benji and we've talked about that. So
what's yours? I'm not saying anything.
Oh, no.
Tell me yours.
I got 25K to go to Japan or to China.
Really, you dog?
Yeah, and I got the Rio race that we ran together. I got 10 to show up there.
Wow.
So how'd you get to go? Yeah.
One thing we have to remember is the small, I think women were considered different than today, where there is true equality in the sport, equal appearance money, and
well,
the
I can tell you, I did New York for free. I got second, broke 230. I did all the Honolulus for free. I did Rio for free, and I was told that if I dropped out, I would have to pay my own way home.
That's terrible.
Where? At Honolulu?
Yeah. No, at Rio. That's in the movie.
They told you, really? They told you that if you dropped out, that you'd have to pay your own way home?
Yep. And I said, really, it should be a commercial.
That's crazy. Because
I said, oh, that's okay. I have an American Express card.
That's a good line.
I actually got 2 tickets.
I mean, there's a part of me that I'm really quick, with stuff, but I hung up that phone and I was so mad and I was so hurt that I felt thrown out. I felt that the running world threw me out. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to show them. I'm getting mad again.
Man, that's
frequently how we responded. I mean, people would disrespect us and we would have to prove to them that was a mistake.
Oh, yeah. So I couldn't get invited anywhere. I called everybody on the back of Runner's World. But this particular Runner's World, for some reason, I noticed that there was an international section. And I thought, oh, okay. So I remember Billy had run Rio, Greg Meyer had run Rio, and they had nothing but good things to say. And I
Yeah.
thought, except that it was hot. I said, but I run well in the heat. That doesn't bother me. And I'm thinking, okay, so I call and I talk to the race director. He gives me a hard time. He says, no, I hear that you're hurt. I hear you're not right. I hear you're not well. And I said, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I will do your race. And this phone call ended. And I was very upset. And I'm getting cry again.
Yeah.
I think I was crying in my kitchen. And I was gripping my counter. I was so mad. I could have lifted the counter up. I was so mad. So I worked myself up and I called him back. And I said, bring me out. I'll win it. And he laughed. And I'm thinking, I'm standing there and I could feel the phone. I could feel my hand, like I'm standing there and I'm sweating. And I say, bring me out. I can hear my words. I said, bring me out. I'll win it. I will win that race. I will win your race. And he laughed. And he said, Patty, I'll tell you what. Proof to me that you're fit. Give me a 10K under 35 or 34 or something. I said, okay. So it just happened to be a race in Cohasset. It was right across the street from me, which is very hilly. So I ran it. I won and I set a course record, but I didn't break 35. So I called him and I said, hey, I did the 10K. I won. I set a new course record. And he said, well, what was your time? And I said, 35 something. And he said, oh, Patty, I'm so sorry. You really have to break 35. And I said, no, Dawn. I said, bring me out. I promise you, I will win the race. Just
Yes,
bring
you're
me
talking
out.
about Rio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said,
So,
just
well,
bring me out. So he did. And he told me if I dropped out, I'd have to I have to pay my own way home.
Do you think he was
Wow.
serious, Patty?
Yeah, I do, because I got one plane ticket. I didn't get the
Oh.
second plane ticket until after.
Well, you know what I think happened? Greg Meyer ran in the first Rio Marathon. I was invited to that race, but I was going through a divorce, which is very hard. And
Yeah.
I couldn't go. But and Greg Meyer won the first men's Rio de Marathon of Brazil.
Was that 84? Was that 84 that he
I
won?
think it was 1980.
Eight-
He won
January.
in 80?
80?
He won with
81, the first year. So
didn't
the
he win with
sponsor-
Lorraine Moeller?
So the sponsor was
Oh.
the newspaper, and it was called
Well, Mary Caroline's was also one of the sponsors too.
Yeah. So there was a couple, a Brazilian man and his wife, who contacted me.
Jose Warnick.
Yes, super nice people, but it's possible, just as in many of the races, and this is what we're trying to say to our guests in the podcast, is that the sport was small. Even Nike was small in those days. They didn't have much money. They didn't. If you looked at what they tried to do with tennis players, they didn't offer them much money either. So I think what happened was we were going through this stuff. There wasn't much money available for prize money. Well, it wasn't even allowed. It was all secretive,
What did you build? So when you went down to Brazil,
Yes.
did you get, if you don't mind asking me?
I was paid a big fee. I was paid $20,000.
Oh, I got ripped off.
You weren't Bill Rogers, Ron.
I'm just kidding. I was happy to get 10K. So
I think one of the problems was on the women's side, there was no respect.
Yeah.
no, there was, that's true.
From us runners, there was a strong mutual respect that Patty talked about and Dan talked about. We respected the women runners, and the women respected us by and large. generally so. But I think that the sport, don't you think, Benji and
Yeah,
Dan,
women's distance running period was in its infancy. I mean, it was just in the 80s that they began to let them run beyond 800 meters. I mean, it was not
No,
a typical thing for a
Well,
woman
yeah,
to
Really
run.
the
taken
women were-
seriously. We
Yeah,
weren't
the
really
wo-
taken seriously.
1500 was the longest Olympic event, right? Up
Yeah,
until
in 80, yeah.
In 80, but before that, Dan, I mean, Greta was an 800-meter runner when she started out because that was as far as she could run.
Was Montreal only 800? Was that the
I don't
longest race?
remember.
I think it was 1500 in Montreal.
I think it might have been 15 in
Yeah,
Montreal, but
1576,
72, they didn't have a
Yeah.
1500.
No.
So
Well, women
no,
were, I mean, going back to when I was with Mary, she was making 15,000 a year. This was in 1980, after she had won the trials, and
Nike?
yeah, that's all she was making, 15. And
yeah, I was
making
doing
more.
better than that from Nike in 80.
I was doing better than that with Adidas back in 80. And I'm just going, man, this is really crazy. I mean, Mac Wilkins was making more than what Mary was, even though it was a world record. Well, Mary was on stud at.
She was like one of the top
She was
women in the world, period.
World, yeah. And I mean, the discrepancy between the men and the women back in the 70s and 80s is just enormous.
Yeah.
We hope that you enjoyed what you heard. And if you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and share. And your support means everything. And until next time, embrace the journey and take care. Happy listening.